Welcome to NBA Today. I'm Shanae Ogwumike in for Malika Andrews. We start the show with a developing story. Jimmy Butler got undercut on a rebound late in the first quarter versus the Rockets game 2 and did not return to the game with a pelvic contusion. Steve Kerr said that after the game, the MRIs were scheduled for this morning. So for the injury update, we now welcome in our senior NBA insider, Shams Charania. Shams, what more can you tell us about Jimmy's status?
Shanae, so after the game last night, I'm told Jimmy Butler was walking on his own power, but he was walking very gingerly. And x-rays taken at the Rockets arena were negative, but the Warriors are expecting a much clearer picture of Jimmy Butler's what looked like a tailbone injury, a pelvic injury. They expect more answers and clarity later today when he undergoes an MRI. But there is clear concern within the Warriors because even a deep contusion in that area typically leads to at least some days, some time that you're going to need. So what will that MRI show? What treatments will he need? Will he be able to make it back with a couple of days here in between games with rest before Game 3 on Saturday? But one thing I can say, Shanae, we've seen Jimmy Butler play through ankle sprains. Last year, he played 3 quarters on a grade 2 MCL sprain in his knee. But this is the second straight year he's had a player collide with him on an injury in the playoffs. We'll see just how long he could be out. This is a Warriors team that's 25-8 with him and 25-27 without him.
Yeah, an unfortunate, situation for Jimmy Butler. This could honestly dictate the series, his health status. Thank you so much, Shams. We'll be in contact as this story continues to develop. So Jimmy Butler, he got hurt early, but honestly, it might have still been the Rockets' night. Houston was ready for liftoff, and that started from the jump with their physicality on Steph Curry. Houston was able to look at them swarm, limit Steph Curry to 20 points on 6 of 15 shooting. Curry was contested on 1.6 players. That's how many were at him. And this was Steph on that defense.
First defender, there's going to be another wave of defenders, collapsing and trying to take away a lot of the off-ball stuff, which we know is our kind of pet actions to get me, free if they're going to trap the ball screens and all that.
While Steph Curry struggled, y'all, Jalen Green was shining, Wilbon.
He didn't struggle. All that stuff about 5 points a game for the last month, not last night.
Yeah, after just 7 points on 3 of 15 shooting in Game 1, he would turn it around for Game 2. He became the youngest player in Rockets history to record a 35-point game in the playoffs, passing Hakeem Olajuwon, who's there courtside, who had that record for nearly 40 years. And you guys, this was the highlight of the night. The dunk, the takeaway, Ramona.
Oh my gosh, this is what he should be in the dunk contest just on that alone.
I've been saying that all year long, but look at the numbers. His takeoff, 9 feet 10 inches. His vertical, 31. And his speed through the rim, 32.7 miles per hour. A straight, you know how they say it in the South, athlete. Now heading to the fourth quarter, Mark Spears. Underneath, there's a foul. Things got chippy, but first, the Rockets and fans, they had some thoughts on Draymond.
It's not really an original. Can't steal other people's. That belongs to Boston.
He loves that, though. He loves that. That's some affection is the way he looks at it.
A huge night for Jalen Green, and the Rockets take Game 2 109-94. And Jalen Green became the youngest Rockets player again with a 35-point game in franchise postseason history. And he did so after scoring just 7 points in Game 1. That 31-point increase is the largest by a player from their first to second career playoff games in NBA history. Now, it's no secret that this series will look a whole lot different if Jimmy Butler misses any time. But Wilbon, just how detrimental could this be for the Warriors?
If he misses a lot of time, like more than 2 games, it's a wrap for the Warriors. Look, there's so many numbers are nonsense most of the time. Let's cut to one that matters. Record of 27 is what the Warriors were. It's not a small sample size before Jimmy Butler got there. That's 11th place. That's play-in. They're a completely and utterly different team. They know. They're not unaware of this. And so that is what led Draymond Green to say, we win a championship now with Jimmy Butler. Without, they're likely to go home. Now, if they can get a split in those 2 games in San Francisco and they can get Jimmy Butler back, if he has some of his time. Knowing Jimmy Butler, I don't know that he's going to miss it. But he's got to be really himself, Shanae. You know what I mean? So if they can get him back in a split, in a 2-2 series, we know they can win in Houston. but his health is paramount.
Yeah, it absolutely is paramount. And if you think about it, the Warriors, you mentioned the schedule. There were 2 games under 500 this season before acquiring Butler and in games that he missed. But after the trade, they won 75% of their games with Jimmy. So he will be crucial. Now, the Warriors, they had to use some lineups that normally they wouldn't due to Butler's injury and also Podziemski's his sickness. So let's get to our front office insider, Bobby Marks, to break down what are the Warriors' options moving forward.
Well, this is the lineup when Jimmy Butler's healthy, and as Michael said, the record speaks for itself here as far as the impact that Jimmy Butler had. Here's the group over here that you're basically pulling from if Jimmy Butler can't play, or even if he's limited. I think the guy that we're certainly going to keep an eye on is Jonathan Kuminga, right? If Jimmy Butler can't play, how do they get his confidence back? How do they get to the Jonathan Kuminga of old? But here's the concern. These are the 2 games so far. Minus 14 points per 100 possessions with Jimmy Butler off the court. Here's what we watch. The beauty with Jimmy Butler is the non-Steph Curry minutes. When Butler is on the court and Curry isn't. This is game 1, +7. Here's game 2, minus 12. So what happens if Butler can't play? Is Curry going to be playing 40, 42 minutes a night? You're going to need a Superman human effort from him. That's the biggest concern for me, is those non-Curry minutes and who basically fills those.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bobby, because the non-Steph Curry and potentially Jimmy Butler minutes, a lot of people, Ramona, might be looking at Jonathan Kuminga, but he's in an awkward situation, knowing that going into the playoffs, it wasn't really clear whether he would be a key factor. I think people know he probably was not going to be designed when 100% to be on the floor, but now he has a bigger role.
I mean, Che, you're a player. When your coach comes to you before the series and says, I don't know if there's going to be a big role for you, like that's hard to internalize, especially for a young player as talented as Jonathan Kuminga. We know how much money he said no to at the beginning of this season. He has an opportunity to go look elsewhere in the offseason if he wants to get a bigger deal. But he has not been able to share the court very well with Jimmy Butler this year. They take up the same space. They haven't played well together. If Jimmy Butler's not able to go, and by the way, Steph Curry and Jonathan Kuminga both had this kind of an injury. Steph missed 2 games with it. Kuminga missed 1. So, Wilbon, what you're talking about of how much time he might miss, that's kind of what we're looking at. How do you, as Jonathan Kuminga, in this situation, go from your coach telling you may not be that involved to now we absolutely need you?
The bag. He wants to get the bag. That's his motivation. Got to let it go. Forget feelings at this point. You know, Jonathan Kuminga actually perhaps played his best basketball this season against the Rockets. He averaged 21 points per game. He actually had 33 points in 1 game against them. So also, when you look at that stat about what the record is without Jimmy Butler, Kuminga missed a lot of those games too. He's got to shake it off. He's got to play. He brings some athleticism that the Warriors need in this series. So, hey, JK, you want to play and you want the bag, this is your time. But let me tell you this real quick. There is some hope, though. Bernie Lee, Jimmy Butler's agent, texts me saying, pray for the bear. That tells me that's some optimism for Jimmy.
Well, listen, there better be some optimism expressed